It's kind of desperate and for distraction, so I'm just going to make another silly video, finishing off the video about talking about equipment, guitar equipment. I started with a kind of Strat copy when I was a kid. I used to work every summer. I had some money. I actually got my first guitar, with it was a Richwood Strat kind of copy. It was a nice guitar. It had inlays, certain types of inlays are important. Playing on the ivory and stuff, you know what I mean? Rattling the bones. It's very difficult, I imagine, to be licensed to have an electric guitar in certain countries for a while. Like in Jamaica, I reckon, they had really good bands in Jamaica because I reckon there was one electric guitar on the island. So you had to be the best guitar player to play the electric guitar on the island. It's kind of like what Ireland was like a bit as well, I'd imagine. So you have to be the best guy to be allowed to play the trumpet or to play this, because you only have one. But yeah. So like I said, about power amps, you need power in the line and power to push into pedals and power to take out of pedals. I would have another post preamp there, a finalizer one, and that'll really drag out phasers and stuff, because I'd like to use a phaser before distortion. So it'd really drag out the sound of a phaser better if I had a post power amp, a pre-power amp, pre-amp. All pedals have preamps in them. So basically, when you're a kid, you're going to use a DS1 or something like this because you want a power amp, you want a preamp in your drive. Now, I only started getting particularly good at guitar. I noticed myself when I stopped using distortion. Now, you really want distortion because if you don't have a preamp yet or kind of things yet, and you'll use a distortion, and you'll use an obnoxious distortion, like a heavy metal zone. I used to really like metal zones, or a DS1 or a Mega Drive, or people use overdrives. I've never touched an overdrive really, but I'm not sure about overdrives. They're nicer to play open chords with. It's just how the preamps are designed, just power going into the thing or power coming out of it. So an overdrive would be like a power kind of preamp. It drags a lot of gain drags a lot of gain out of a clean tone, but putting it into a DS1 puts a lot of your tone right into a distortion. So so if you don't use preamps, and you won't because you're a beginner guitarist and you won't care, you'll use a distortion pedal, and you won't have a preamp, so it's not even there. You'll want a big powerful guitar. You want a Gibson. I got an Ibanez Destroyer. I was a Korn fan. The Ibanez Destroyer, and then I got a Gibson little €450 Epiphany or Epiphone. It's a cool little rock and roll guitar. It sounds great. It's been on tours and stuff. I wasn't on those tours, but it came back, and it's got loads of Coke scratching marks on the back of the guitar. It's a little rock and roll legend. I gave it to my little brother. It's actually over there somewhere. He has his family and stuff going now. But yeah, so you'll typically want to do this. You'll want to buy a big powerful guitar and put it into the amp, because you're trying to cover for these things that you don't know about, like compression stage or a power stage, or then drive and effects stages, and then even if you're really doing a post preamp, which again will look like that thing that I explained, that it just has a volume and a gain and a volume or something like this. It'll be very simple. There's lots of different things you could do to put in this phase. I've been thinking about it loads. There's loads of different types of preamps. You can buy AMT preamps or something, and you can do a lot of cool stuff. On that note, I just wanted to let you know about a really cool, quirky way to modify any amplifier. Well, any amplifier that has a loop in the back, or a pedal loop, or a power amp in preamp. There's sometimes a little stage that you can put pedals, so all of this is bypassed, and you put your pedal between everything and the power amp. Some people kind of say stuff like it's amazing to put a tube screamer in the back of the amp and just let the tube screamer hit the power amp itself, so it's just hitting raw into them. I kind of think that'd be dangerous or hazardous. I just think it'd be damaging the amp in a way if it doesn't go through all the stages of compression and preparation before it hits the amp. So I just like to put passive pedals in the back of the amp, like a delay or a looper or something, to shorten the actual line itself. Keep the line as short as possible and put these kind of things in the back. Phasers, they kind of sound distant and disconnected in the back of the amp. But what I thought is cool, and this is really cool, you can put any preamp you buy. So you can buy like a Fender Bassman preamp, you can buy lots of different types of preamps modelled on amps. They're actually like these parts of the amp, so this part, channel 1 or channel 2, or even both of them, and you can buy it in a box without the speaker, a little pedal. You can actually put that into the effect loop of your amp, and you can kind of turn any amp somewhat. You can modify your amp very simply. Like I can get a PV, a kick-ass PV preamp, and I can put it into the effects loop of my little crappy solid-state Fender amp, and it would really jack it up. Like I could put a tube, there are tubes in it. Actually, there's a tube in this kind of AMT things, and I can turn my solid-state amp very effectively and easily into a wonderful cyber PV hybrid Fender tube ampy thing, just by putting a power amp in the back loop on its own. Because I used that little preamp, or that little DI box thing, and it made a really massive effect on the sound of the amp. It was a really cool way to modify any amp with an effects loop, is to put another few channels in, get a really fancy preamp with some cool channels and stuff, and put it in, and you can, totally hybrid your amp into some weird semi-custom thing. There's no valves in these amps. Someone asked me about it, and I said these are the first amps that came out without valves. This is like trying to compete. That's why they're kind of cheap these days. So about guitars, you might want to get a really powerful guitar and just put it into a powerful kind of amp. And this is where a lot of people do. And then they just, like Billy or someone would even say, like, then the pedals just weaken everything and get in the way and really soften stuff. And it's hard to find this balance between, like I said, if you're going to put pedals in front, you might want to replicate the system of the amp and have a complete system in front of the amp. So a compression stage, a power stage, an effects processing gear stage, and then a finalization stage, a post preamp stage, and mimic the amp inside before, because you may as well have this design instead of just having like a distortion and a phaser and a delay and a little line, and it'll take a lot of gain away. It just doesn't. I don't know. But anyway, so this is a Strat. This is a 50s replica Stratocaster. Me and Billy hate people that. Sorry, excuse me, interrupted there. Everybody hates people that put a little. I don't know why we do it. I don't know. I don't use this at all. I never use this. I bought it, and I love the Fender stock the pickups that came in this. I do love them, but I just bought another ones to try stuff out, and these are like a higher magnetic and kind of powerful and chunky. No, I wouldn't mind a stock Fender amp or stock Fender guitar, but just the actual pickups. It's just from experimenting, and I may as well just have like these ones in at a time. I'm talking too much about this, sorry. So you want to get like a powerful guitar, and intuitively, because you don't do these preamp things and all, so people buy big powerful guitars and put them into big powerful Marshalls and try to make a big powerful sound. I noticed with Jimi Hendrix was like he never really had a distorted quality, but it was raging and fiery and it was flamey. But I never really thought it was like a DS1, or a fuzz face. In some parts he hits a fuzz face on, but you can very clearly tell when he turns it on and turns it off, and he's playing most of his guitar very clean. I didn't know about compressors and stuff. I think Jimi Hendrix uses a post compressor. So in this phase here, you could have put a compressor there very well, because it does manage and limit sounds without like in a different way. It's just preamps and stuff in them, as I can imagine as well. But you could easily put a compressor here, a nice compressor here, like that black finger might be cool over here as a finalization stage. It'd be pretty sweet, and I could click it on and off. So I'm pretty sure Hendrix did use a post-compression stage. He had some stuff going in. He had a booster. He definitely had line boosters, and that's what I'm getting to. I had powerful guitars, and I was doing that thing that everyone does. You buy an Ibanez or a Gibson guitar, you buy some powerful magnetic guitar. And it worked all summer. And instead of buying a motorbike, I bought a Stratocaster. This 50s replica Stratocaster, which I think Amy Winehouse has the same one. I think me and Amy Winehouse had the same guitar. Very gentle, and from the 50s, distortion wasn't even invented. And I thought that'd be kind of cool, like Nirvana, that if I put a 50s built guitar into loads of fuzz pedals and distortions, it's so cool. So I was in like a kind of garage trashy band when I was a kid with a cool drummer. And I was very just used to having like a wah and my DS1 or another distortion pedal or two into a little crappy Fender amp. And raging Metallica kind of sounds. I bought this then, and I had a big muff at the same time. I obviously found out about the Smashing Pumpkins at this point in time. And I went to practice and I plugged my Fender into like a big muff, or even any of the distortions. And, you know, my drummer was just like, yeah, don't use that. And it really broke my balls, you know what I mean? It was like €900 or something I paid for it. Whatever it was, I got it from Germany, and it sounded crap, you know, and my Strat sounded crap, and because it has very weak and very passive pickups, not big, massive Gibson-y kind of style pickups where you can really blare and really get a lot of signal. You don't even touch these things on it. Well, yeah, I'll talk about that in a second again. So that was crap. And then you want to do things like change your pickups in your Strat, which is what led me to do that. Like I said, I don't use this at all, but soon enough this will be a bleed switch. So I'm going to use just these two and have this bleed into these so I can hit pinch harmonics. I love doing pinch harmonics. So this is just going to be a bleed for this into these so I can get better pinches. And at the moment all I use is just this pickup. All I ever play with it is this pickup. And very much on the tone knob, almost all the way down on it. Nobody really ever touches tone knobs or even their volume knobs on a Strat. See, like Slipknot even take them out and don't even care for their kind of tone knobs. I'm always almost all the way down on this just to bring a bit of brightness in. I'm not supposed to be playing a Strat, basically. I'm supposed to be playing like a Jaguar or something like that. But yeah, one day. Yeah, until I got power amps basically and figured out the things about power amps and power in the line. Either you get power in your pickups, like I said in the last video. Some people have batteries in their pickups, power in the preamp or power in the post amp. And then most people will have power in the amp. I don't do that much, but until I got that, I noticed, you know, does it kind of trick people, say, when you're doing sound checks at a gig to keep your volume a bit down on your guitar, and the PA guy will always kind of keep everyone crappy and quiet, so then you save a little extra boost when you hop up on stage and you just kind of slightly turn it up a bit louder so you can ring through a bit more. All your bandmates are kind of doing the same thing. You could just get some messy. But I noticed when I got the preamp and that nice compressor, that CKK compressor, that I can just finally turn everything down. So volume on my Strat particularly is never up full, which every guitarist plays with their guitar up full, particularly if you're playing a Strat. Even if you get one of these stupid things no one uses, and people have a terrible habit of playing Strats. Pumpkins particularly, I'm going to criticise these, and sometimes you have two Strats on stage and they're both in this phasing or this position, and it's too clangy. It's just, I don't know. They'll adjust their amps and stuff accordingly to balance out the sensitivity, but people go for the sensitivity on a Strat down here, and that's why they try to put a big chunky pickup in as well, so they turn, basically they want to play Gibson. they want to play Gibson or something, but they just want to look like Jimi Hendrix. So yeah, I'm always on this, and very much with the tone nearly almost all the way down, but I do ring in a lot and ring in out a lot with this tone. This sounds fine to me. This sounds absolutely fine. The center pickup sounds fine, and the tone knob with it sounds nice. But I will just have the two of them, or two or three of those. It would be perfect then, and I'll put it, stop it going, and have my bleed switch to bleed this in. So in the pickups, because you can't really hit pinch harmonics so much on these pickups, they're not so sensitive. This is very sensitive. I might smack it into there for like a weird Billy Corgan solo, like, or something, but yep. So yeah, sorry, I'm a little bit lost there. What I was saying is when you get these power amps and things, you can turn everything down. And when you can turn things down, there's just, if you're always up at the 100% mark, you have no below and above because you're at 100%, so there's nothing above. But if you get everything down to 50%, you've got some above and some below. So when you have the power or preamp power to balance levels, basically volume levels in between and here and in the amp itself, you can be really low on a guitar, which is what Hendrix used to do. He has this lovely reduced tone, really not tone, but really choked and not so sensitive tones on his Strat. But he's obviously boosting these very small signals with justifiers, with preamps preamps and stuff. So that's how I put a saddle on my Strat, basically. I just thought Strats kind of look like horses. With their arms kind of like, galloping up in the air. Anyway, a horsey head. But that's how you're going to put a saddle on a Strat. You can leave the pickups in, they're fine. You can mess around with the wiring, but you'll need a preamp to play a Strat. Or a post preamp. You don't need power in the line to play a Strat. This sounded so terrible for so many years, it broke my heart. And I just couldn't put my saddle on my Strat. Figure out how to get the power out of it without having to put pickups in it. I did that anyway. I had this for a while and I had the two standards. And I loved it. There was a great sound. I don't know if you my earlier videos had those too. But I just got these flat, weird ones. I put them at a slant as well, in case you want to know. Magnetism and stuff. I try things out and mess with things, and it sounds very, very nice when they're on a slant. Get a nice breath where it's harmonic and equal. It kind of might have a lot of sound cancellation. I'm not a physicist myself, but I reckon there's a lot of magnetic cancellation when things are equal and even.